What is up, everybody? I'm Joel Klatt. This is Breaking the Huddle, ready to celebrate the sport in a tough week for everybody with you. This show is brought to you by Dr. Pepper. It is the official drink of Fansville. Lots to get into. My top 10 reaction to the CFP and the rankings that we got on Tuesday night. We're going to talk with Jamey Chadwell, the head coach of Coastal Carolina. We're going to talk with Luke Fickell, head coach at Cincinnati. And then we've got a little Ask Klatt, some ideas for the rest of the season and some adjustments that I think need to take place both in the future for college football and even maybe in the next couple of weeks out in the Pac-12. But let's get started with my top 10 teams in the country, the way that I saw this play out after last weekend. Miami comes in at number 10. Listen, 8-1 with their only loss. I think they're a top 10 team. Obviously, with D'Eriq King, he's a quality player. Iowa State, this is a bit of recency bias, right? They're playing really well of late. Oklahoma, same thing. With the players that they have back that they didn't have against Iowa State, that's why I've got them above the Cyclones. Don't love that, but that's the way that I put them. Cincinnati at 7, Florida 6 right behind A&M, who beat them. Clemson at 4, Notre Dame at 3. I did flip Notre Dame and Ohio State based on the fact that Ohio State severely undermanned both in the coaching staff and in their offensive line, went out there and absolutely thrashed Michigan State. They looked absolutely dominant. Fields looked great. The defense looked fantastic. And then Alabama is kind of, at least for me, the clear number one team in the country. There was a lot of talk from me on Twitter on Saturday about, hey, like Coastal Carolina is definitely going to be ranked. And I feel bad I didn't get them into the top 10. They were right there, and I didn't do it. I am admittedly a bit of a big conference snob, but it hasn't set well with me that I did not get them in there. I probably should have, but I just thought Miami, Iowa State, and Oklahoma were also deserving. Let's take a look at what the CFP gave us on Tuesday night. Obviously a little different than what I rolled out there. I think Bama at number 1 is a no-brainer. I even understand Notre Dame at 2. I don't understand this whole Clemson above Ohio State thing. I really don't, in particular after last week, the way that Ohio State looked. Clemson does not have, I don't think at least, the quality win out there that maybe Ohio State does against Indiana, and that's in part because the committee is undervaluing Indiana. Indiana's win last week without their quarterback proves that they're just a really good team. It's not just about Michael Penix. They can go out there. Their defense played exceptional football. And because of that, I think that the win Ohio State had over Indiana should mean a little bit more. That's why I've got them higher. But this is the way that they see it. I think those 4 at the top are fine. A&M at 5, right above Florida. Again, the recency bias with Iowa State, the way that they've been playing, I kind of understand that. Cincinnati falls back 1. Georgia in the top 10 still doesn't make any sense. Their best win is over a very average Auburn team, and they got absolutely run by the 2 quality teams that they played this year, Alabama and Florida. Miami is in the top 10. Oklahoma's right there. Indiana, I think they should have been given a little bit more love. Coastal should have been given more love. And then Northwestern and USC. Real quick on USC, by the way, there's a scenario when you look at the teams above them, there's a scenario where I feel like USC could actually get a legitimate shot at the CFP. If USC were to win out and be a 6-0 Pac-12 champ, undefeated, and Bama wins, Notre Dame wins, and Ohio State wins out, guys, when you look at that, it basically comes down to an argument for the 4th spot between A&M, Cincinnati, and USC, which, I mean, they were thrown away at the beginning of the year, and I got to tell you, they're sitting right there at number 15, and in part, we know that because a team in Coastal hasn't been given the respect that they deserve. They've got 2 top 20 wins, BYU and Louisiana. Louisiana beat the 7th-ranked team in the country, the Iowa State Cyclones, and yet here the Coastal is sitting at 13. I'm sure that their coach, Jamey Chadwell, had to be happy and frustrated at the same time. And we actually got a chance to sit down with him. I asked him about his reaction to those rankings on Tuesday night, and also what he would want us to know about his team moving forward in the season. This is what he said.
Well, my first inclination was there was this excitement to be, 13th in the country. That there was, you're like that never happens for G5 teams really, and especially, during the Sun Belt. But I'll be honest, I did get a little upset after seeing some people that were ranked ahead and that had more losses, and I felt like we've got a good resume. I was a little upset about it, and good thing I didn't have a camera in front of me at that time. I'd probably said something about it. But then, you sleep on it, and you wake up and you're thankful that you're in the conversation. We're late in the year here, basically a couple weeks to go, and we're in the conversation for a New Year's Six. So we're going to embrace the opportunity and hope that we can continue to do things well, that will be enough for the committee to decide we should be, in that NY6 bowl game. It just didn't, start this year. They're seeing the fruit of it this year, but it started last year and the buy-in that our players had. But if you watched our game at all the other night, you see a team that plays for each other. They play for a purpose and they play with passion. We played hard, and I hope that shines through. I want our team to be known as somebody that plays hard. We try to play the right way, but they play for each other and they play for a bigger purpose. We want to win, but realistically, we're doing it because we care for each other on and off the field. And I think that's why you're seeing our team do so well this year, is because it truly is a brotherhood.
We appreciate Coach Chadwell and him providing us a little time there, and certainly rooting for Coastal as they move forward. Lots going on, obviously, this week with the news of Ohio State, Michigan, like we got into earlier. And so I'm trying to find a game. Got a little free time on my hands, so I thought let's have a little Ask Klatt section. So we got some of your questions. We tried to consolidate. Here were kind of the three most prevalent questions that we got over the course of the last couple of days. Cole Cook says, should CU and USC be playing this week, letting UCLA and Utah play? And then the winner claims the Pac-12 South. See, the Pac-12 is a mess right now. You've got Colorado and USC that, in theory, could finish the season, at least the regular season, both undefeated. They lost or missed that game because there were COVID issues at USC. Remember, there were COVID issues at Arizona State, and so Colorado was not able to play ASU either. So all of a sudden, in the win and loss column within division, USC would win the tiebreaker of two undefeated teams. Obviously, that's not a fair situation to Colorado, in particular when you're taking a look at a North Division where Washington has one loss. They're playing Oregon for the division title up there this week, and yet Washington just paused team activities. So it's a mess right now in the Pac-12. Yes, in theory, it would have been much easier for them to just say, hey, UCLA and USC, you should not play this week. Colorado comes in, takes the spot of UCLA, and USC plays Colorado in a true division championship. The Pac-12 put out a statement that said because of scheduling protocols, they weren't going to do that. That's not entirely truthful from the Pac-12. They are hiding right now. They could absolutely do that. In fact, they've made games out of thin air before during the course of this season. So there is no scheduling protocol as they claim. They just didn't want to lose the UCLA-USC game, which is kind of the television prize of the Pac-12 schedule. That's all it is. I just wish that they were more honest with everybody. Now, if Washington's unable to play, they would de facto win the North Division this week. Do you really want them backing in because they're not able to play? I don't either. I think that the real fix for the Pac-12 is put Colorado and USC in the championship game next week. All right? In a season in which flexibility and foresight are rewarded, the Pac-12 has shown very little of that during the course of the year. And if they were able to make that decision, it would not only boost their champion, whether it's Colorado or USC, but it would also make it a much more equitable year for their participants and for those players. Last thing on that, if the champion were to be USC, there is a path for USC to get to the playoff, but only if they can play the best possible opponents within their conference and look very dominant doing so. So it's twofold here. You're more fair to Colorado. You're adjusting clearly and not rewarding a Washington team that would be pausing team activities this year. And you could potentially bolster your champion towards the playoff. All right, let's move on. That's enough on the Pac-12. Football is back, says, in a weird, crazy COVID year, why not give the Heisman Trophy to a non-quarterback or running back? Devontae Smith has had an incredible year, and giving Mac Jones or Kyle Trask would just be rewarding the best quarterback in the SEC. Listen, I don't disagree with you. I think that the best non-quarterback in football right now is Devontae Smith. He's been unbelievable. I thought his production was going to actually go down when Jalen Waddle got injured because the defense was going to focus more on him. And guess what's happened? The exact opposite. Since Waddle has gone down in the last 4 games, 35 catches, 749 yards, and 11 touchdowns. This guy is unbelievable. You can't defend him. He's too fast. He runs clean routes. He catches the ball well. Mac Jones has been playing well, and he throws an accurate ball out there and allows Devontae Smith the opportunity to run after the catch. But he's been phenomenal, and he absolutely is climbing into the position where he will be included in my final three on my Heisman ballot because he's one of, if not the best player in college football. So there's no doubt Devontae Smith needs to start getting a little bit more run in the Heisman conversation. All right, last one here in a little clapback. Let's go to Jonathan Willis says, is there any shot of breaking the Power 5, Group of 5 bureaucracy in college football? Listen. We're going to talk with, I'm going to ask Coach Fickell about that here in the next segment. But I will tell you this. Based on the rankings Tuesday night, there is no path for the Group of 5 or any of their schools and participants to make the playoff. This farce that it's open to everybody is exactly that, a farce. Okay, so that's not accurate. So we need to do one of two things at this point in college football. We either need to change the criteria or expand the playoff in order to create an avenue that is legitimate for all college football teams to potentially make the playoff, or we need to break the Power 5 away and have a Power 5 national champion and a Group of 5 national champion. And obviously at that point, you wouldn't say Power 5 or Group of 5, but you would just have two separate divisions. I think that's probably the better scenario because you could actually have a national champion at a lower division, which would, at least in my estimation, garner more interest in football fans around the country. I think that that's probably the better thing to do, in particular when you start thinking about the fact that in the Group of 5, as it currently stands, we only talk about the best one or two teams at that level. Okay, so the entire that entire level of teams is kind of an afterthought. Whereas if they had, let's say, an 8-team playoff of their own, we would talk more about a deeper roster of teams at that level. I think that interest would be better monetarily for those schools, and it would be better from a recruiting perspective. And then the Power 5 could go out there and they could actually structure what they've got going on that would be better for the postseason, like no divisions, conference championships, they would go automatically, so on and so forth. So I think one of the big fixes in college football would be chopping those divisions in two and letting the Group of 5 have a national champion and the Power 5 have a national champion. That'll do it for Ask Klatt. As promised, really pleased to be joined now by the head coach of the Cincinnati Bearcats, Luke Fickell. First of all, Coach, congratulations on a great season so far. I know that you're trying to get things finished up here. Won't play this weekend, but we'll play Tulsa for the championship next week. But so far, congratulations on a great year.
Well, I appreciate it, Joel. It's been like for all teams, whether you're having a great year or not, it's been quite a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think we'll all be better because of it. But for right now, it's been a long season, that's for sure.
I'd love to know just your reaction last night. You know, obviously the committee, since they've been meeting, haven't actually seen you guys play a game. It's been a while since we've seen the Bearcats on the field, and they moved you down a spot, moved Iowa State up and moved you guys down a spot. Your reaction to what you saw on Tuesday night?
I didn't see it. I purposefully don't kind of watch that stuff. Probably had some idea that something was going to change a little bit, but it is what it is. I know that I've said all along, since this whole kind of thing has been really started after week 6 maybe, that you're going to have to be playing your best ball at the end of the year. That also means you're going to have to be playing. And when you're not playing, sometimes you're out of sight, out of mind. So I understand what's going to happen. That's why it's really big for us to get back onto the field as soon as we possibly can and get back to where we were. And if we do that, then then we'll let everything else go where it goes. But it's really difficult when you're not playing.
Coach, your quarterback's having a heck of a year. Your defense is having a heck of a year. You guys are balanced. I've watched a few of your games on film. You play hard, fundamentally sound. All the things that you would want a quality football team to be, you guys are doing that, at least on the film.
No, there's no doubt. And I think that's why if we could get a chance, if we can finish what we're supposed to do, we are a very balanced football team. I mean, obviously, when you've got a quarterback, it gives you a chance in everything that you do. Not to mention when you've got a good defense. But yeah. I think in the whole grand scheme of things, special teams wise, we've got some really good things. And I think it gives us an opportunity to be able to play with anybody just because of the balance that we have on both sides of the ball. And then the special teams that has been really exceptional for us all year.
Should you be given a chance? Do you feel like that there's a legitimate avenue or path for you or any group of 5 team that is in your position? I mean, Coastal Carolina is in your position. They have 2 top 20 wins as it relates to the playoff committee, and they don't seem to be getting a lot of love here. Should there be a more clear path for you and your team to a playoff spot?
Well, with 4, it's always going to be a challenge. And I don't mean that just because I don't like to say the P5 thing. I don't like to say a group of 5. When you're a team that doesn't have the history, maybe, so to speak, you're not the blue bloods, I think it's going to be difficult in a lot of situations if there are those teams that are at the top that you're going to have to jump. And you could be in a different conference. You could be, in a Big Ten conference or a Pac-12 whatever. I still think in some sense of the measures, until you can overtake or beat one of those blue blood programs that are already in the top 5, it's going to be difficult for everybody. But nonetheless, I think you got to be able to play on the football field. You got to finish whatever is your due, and you got to put your best foot forward. And if that's what we have to do for us or for anybody else that's not a, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, LA, I mean, one of those teams, then you know what? Then it's going to be a challenge for us. But hey, we love the challenges.
Obviously, you got to finish things off and put hardware on the wall with a conference championship. If you're able to do that, do you get a sense of how motivated and maybe how much a motivating factor it is for your players to potentially get a matchup in the New Year's Six where they can go prove it to the rest of America and say, listen, we're a really good football team, and here's why?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of what it is that we have here. Our guys love that. They love the competition, that they would play 17 games like an NFL season if they could. They love to play, and to have that chance, if we were fortunate enough to do it, then they will want whatever opportunities they get. And I tell you what, it won't be guys thinking about the next step and the next phase of their lives. They'll be really in tune to, playing against somebody and proving something, because a lot of the guys here, there is a chip on that shoulder,
sure,
as players and as coaches that we know we've got to prove everything that we're going to do.
Coach, can't tell you how much I appreciate your time. Best of luck the rest of the season. We hope that you guys can get healthy, stay safe, and then continue to put out that great product. I appreciate your time, man. Very nice talking to you.
I appreciate it, Joel. It's a unique year, and it's just great to be in the position we are, and we got to finish strong.
All right, a little clapback time. Let's get right to it. Obviously, when I put out rankings on Saturday night, just flooded with people that clearly agree with me. Nope, that's not the case. Tommy clearly doesn't. Okay, now you're trolling with Ohio State at number 2. Clearly, I'm not. And listen, this is one of the most talented teams in the country. They've got what looks to be as good of a quarterback as anybody out there. He and Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence are clearly the class of college football. They're the number 1 rushing team in the Power 5. Their defense gave up less than 270 yards to Michigan State. They've got 2 unbelievable wide receivers in Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, who got absolutely snubbed by the Bolitnikoff. And without 3 offensive linemen, their starting middle linebacker, a defensive end, and a safety, they went out there and absolutely hammered Michigan State. So, no, I'm not trolling anybody. I think that their win against Indiana, as I talked about earlier, is much better than people give it credit for, because people are undervaluing that Indiana team. So Ohio State at 2 is not out of the realm of possibility at all. I think, in fact, that the committee is undervaluing Ohio State at this point, putting them behind Clemson. For what? For what? Because their conference screwed up and didn't play on time? I mean, that's about the only thing. So no, Tommy Long, you are wrong. Speaking of Ohio State, Don says, iconic rivalry. I tweeted out that I was going to really miss this rivalry game, and it's the most iconic, certainly in this sport and maybe in all of sport. And he says it's not even a rivalry, nowhere close to being a rivalry. Ohio State owns Michigan. Don, you're out of your mind. Listen, guy, okay? Just because the Yankees had 26 world championships, basically in the time frame where the Red Sox had none since the curse of the Bambino, didn't mean that the Red Sox-Yankees weren't a great rivalry. It was always a great rivalry. Why? Because those two sides hated each other, all right? It doesn't have to every year mean everything, and just because you're dominant through a section doesn't mean that the rivalry goes away. Don, that's the craziest and dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. This game is, in many respects, the soundtrack to college football. Ohio State and Michigan. And that doesn't go away because Michigan has not been able to beat Ohio State during what has been a historically great run, even for Ohio State under Urban Meyer and now continued through Ryan Day. So it's, of course, still a great rivalry, and I'm going to miss calling that game very much this week. Don't know where I'm going yet, but we will find that out hopefully later today. Thank you for watching the show, everybody. This has been Breaking the Huddle. I'm Joel Klatt, and this show, as always, is brought to you by Dr. Pepper, the official drink of Fansville. Enjoy the week of college football.